Joining me to start the show off today is a man that holds a 17-3 record with 7 KOs. He goes by the nickname Too Slick. That's Chris Kongo. Chris, appreciate taking time to come on today, man.
Yeah, I'm all good, man. I'm all good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Well, obviously you're coming off a disappointing performance against Owen Cooper, and I know we were just kind of talking about that backstage a little bit, but now that you've had, a little bit of time to process the loss, a little bit of time to reflect on it,
Mhm.
where are you standing right now mentally at this point in time?
Mentally, I'm still strong. I still know
Mhm.
what I can do in a game. Maybe I'm a person that will come on better the later, like the older I get.
Right.
I'm experienced now, which is good. I've done the rounds, which is good, but I know what I need to do moving forward, which is step up.
And we're going to get into that stuff, but I really want to go through your career because what I look at and notice about you is that you've had losses in your career. We've always found a way to bounce back from them. And I think that's something that
Hmm.
is a largest testament to yourself, how you've been able to bounce back even when you take those losses. And so I want to get to know you better and know about how you've gotten to the place you're at today. And so if we're going to go all the way back, though, we talk about yourself growing up in the UK. Was boxing always something that you loved? Did that come on later on in life? Or how did boxing start for yourself?
Boxing is something that I loved. I
Mm-hmm.
went to a amateur boxing gym called Fisher ABC in
Okay.
Bermondsey, which is in Southeast London.
Mm-hmm.
And two of my brothers started fighting before me. And at the gym, it was more like a youth club with a boxing gym at the top.
Mm.
So I would more likely just go to the youth club, play table tennis, snooker, football, swimming, and then I found myself in a boxing gym, and I just loved it ever since.
At what point did that transition or a flip switch in your mind where you started saying, "This is something that I actually want to pursue now"? Like, I could see myself potentially going, amateur rank, but then even making that pro jump. When did that click for you?
That clicked when I was about 19, 20,
Okay.
and I had the situation of studying and boxing. I was doing both. I wasn't really taking both seriously that year,
Mm.
but then that was 2012. And
Okay.
then in 2013, I made the decision to just go hard at both, and whichever one um surpasses, that's my path, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I basically got to the nationals in the UK. I then got a call up, a trial for Team GB, and
Hmm.
then after that, I got into the squad, and from then I just pick up and excel.
If you were to evaluate your career to this point in time and all the fights you've had, 17-3, 7 KOs, as I alluded to in the beginning, has this career gone as you expected? Has it been a little bit less than you expected, more than you expected? How would you have reacted if I would have told you how your career has gone at that point in time?
I would say less than I expected because I really wanted to have more fights. So
Mm.
if you do look at my first two losses, they were just both down to experience,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So when I even sparred McKinson when he was having his first pro title, I was having my second pro fight.
Mm.
And what happened was nobody wanted to fight us. So we thought we'll just fight each other. But really, I didn't have the experience.
Right.
So that's something that I would change. I would change to get more experience and keep picking it up. And then when I am ready for titles, that's when I step on it.
So you would say that earlier in your career, you maybe made too big of a jump too quickly, you'd say?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Give us the mindset and the framework because obviously there's going to be countless more young up and coming fighters in the future. And when you're talking about the UK, you guys obviously have a little bit different formula in terms of how you guys reach the high points in the UK opposed to America. Obviously, you guys have the different Commonwealths, you guys have the British titles, those different things. When you
Mhm.
talk about that, what's the perfect way? What's the dream or the best way for a fighter to work their way up and get themselves ready to compete at the highest level?
In the UK, it's definitely fighting for the British title.
Hmm.
I think once you got the British title, you can then go for the Commonwealth, then the European. Then
Right.
once you've got the European, you're automatically 15 in the world. And then
Mm.
that qualifies you to fight for the world titles and then you can fight a few world ranked fighters, and then go on to world level, which is what I'm gonna do as a super world.
Well, we're still getting to that in a few minutes now, but I know when you talk about some of your career points, as we talked about, you had some high wins. Obviously, you go and have your Luther Clay win, where you become the WBO Global Welterweight Champion. Then you go to Michael McKiss,
Mhm.
you obviously lose that one. So you had a lot of these ups and downs throughout your career. That has to be difficult at the same time, though. So how have you gone through that? Where you've gone from these highs of accomplishing things, and then obviously having little setbacks. How have you gone through that?
Just life, just getting back in the gym. I've uh, I've been through way worse, you know. So in life, setbacks happen, and you just have to pick yourself up and look where you went wrong. Take that as a lesson because it's not a loss, and you just gotta keep grinding.
I was going to say this, that I feel like boxing is, you can relate that more to life than about any other sport you do, because of the fact that you can get knocked down, you get back up. It's ultimately one of the only sports you can do where it's pretty much obviously have your team around you, but for the most part, when you step in a ring, it's you against your opponent. And that's not something you
For
get to
sure.
relate to life as much so as you can in boxing. How would you say that these trials and tribulations inside the ring have impacted you and helped you as a person now develop outside of that ring?
Well, they've helped me a lot,
Hmm.
They've helped me mentally, you know, knowing that I can get over these things. For me as well, a big thing for me is my faith. So I put
Hmm.
my trust in God. I always say God's time is the best time and is the right time. So I just leave it all down to him.
How big has that faith been for you throughout your journey now?
It is the biggest. It's what comes
Hmm.
first. It comes first before boxing. And yeah, man, like I said before, God's timing is the best timing. So if it ain't gonna happen now, it will happen later down the line, but it will happen. And you just gotta have faith in yourself and trust the man upstairs.
Where would you say has been the biggest moment that you've had to rely upon God and then you've seen him work in your life?
That was against the Marquee fight. After I lost to Eko Esiman,
Mhm.
I was trying so hard to get a fight. I couldn't get a fight. My promoter couldn't get me a fight at the time. I was with Boxer currently, and yeah, it just seemed so hard to get me a fight. And with the UK, they don't. After you take a loss, it's like they want to shelf you, and
Mhm.
it takes so long for you to get back in the ring. And it took me 13 months. And me personally, I think they brought Marker in to beat me. But I said, listen, if this is your time, then show me, work through me. And he did, and he did wonderful things.
I want to get into that situation for yourself because that would be potentially your best performance of your career. Obviously, when you go out there and you look at what you did in that fight, that was obviously a huge performance against Marku. And I want to go into that because, like I said, that was probably one of, if not the best performance of your career. Walk us through
Mhm.
that mindset when you got in that ring and you had that fight. Would you say that was your best performance of your career?
Yes, I would say it's one of.
Okay,
I definitely think my wins against Luther Clay as well was very good.
agreed.
That's a top performance as well. My win against Formella, who at the time was world level, he had only lost to Conor Ben and Shaw Porter. So I've
Hmm.
had some good wins in my time, but that I could say was probably the most satisfying win for
Sure.
me. And we really worked hard for that, and it all paid off.
Now, the thing that was interesting is you have that win earlier in the year last year, and then obviously I think you wanted some big fights. This never ended up coming to fruition last year in the calendar year. And I think that was a pretty big. I was researching, and I found that was a little bit of a struggle for yourself because you wanted bigger fights. You ended up getting two more fights in that year. But when you
Mhm.
reflect back on 2024 after the Marcoux win, what was going through your mind? How was that year for yourself?
That year was a bit frustrating, but at the same time, changes had to be made.
Hmm.
I had to go through a change in management situation. I just wanted to be more busy. And listen, for a fighter and for a promoter as well, if you have a fighter that's had a brilliant win, why are you gonna then just shelf him? You know, it
Yep.
don't make sense. I wanted to be back out and busy. And I don't think I showed everything in that marquee fight. I wanted to, build momentum from that. So
Mhm.
you guys could see a bit more of Chris Congo, but situations happen. I then was able to fight on the Riyadh season cards on the Wednesday, and they were both last minute, but I done what I had to do.
Can you walk us through the business side of that aspect? Because I feel like we see that with boxers so often. Fans that don't know the business side of that can be confusing because we see a fighter come off a career best and one of the best performances, and then people are saying we want to see him more. We want to see him back in the ring. And obviously, from the fans' perspective, that might just be saying things along the lines of, okay, he just doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to be active, so on and so forth, because they don't know the business side of things. Can you take us
Mhm.
through that? And when you're going through a situation that you just came off a career best performance, you want to look at that and you think you probably have greater opportunities on the table. What is that business side like when you're trying to get a fight hammered out and you deserve a fight to be hammered out, but it's not coming to fruition?
So hard, so hard.
Mhm.
We work so hard to put these big fights and put these big performances on, and then after nothing happens, it's a bit stagnant, and which
Right.
is not nice at all. It's
Mhm.
not nice, we work hard for this, and we just want to keep busy and be active. That's all.
When you look back at last year, do you think anything you could have changed that you could have maybe made it a more active year for yourself, or do you think this was like 100% out of your hands?
It was 100% out of my hands.
Okay.
I was begging the promotional team to keep me busy and give me another fight, but it just wasn't happening. Only they know why.
Right.
So changes had to be made.
As you went through that year, then your other fights you got fighting in that year, you ended up fighting up a little bit more in weight classes. You're fighting around 155, I think it was, that you weighed in at one, and then 150, 160 at the other one. When you talk about
Mhm.
making that jump in weight that year, what led to that?
That led to the last minute calls of me
Okay.
being, in the gym, just training, sparring, helping the boys, and the opportunity comes. So that was it. But that was me. I was actually comfortable at them weights. They're
Okay.
not too far off super welterweight. And a lot of people was telling me to stay at the weight, and I
Mhm.
shouldn't move back down. But I had my goal to, win something at welterweight, whether it's a European title, whether it's a WBC silver, or
Mhm.
get closer to even an interim title to then qualify me for a world title.
Okay.
Then that was it. But yeah, it is what it is.
You had a great opportunity at the end of the year last year to fight Riyadh season on a unique situation. Now, obviously, what Turkey's doing is quite unique, and you got to go fight there Riyadh season. Just what was that experience like?
It was lovely. It was beautiful. I would love to do it again. Saudi Arabia is a beautiful country.
Yeah.
Um, I would definitely be hoping to fight sometime end of the year or next year again. But it was a good experience seeing the other guys as well fighting. It was great. It was great. I loved it.
Let's head back into now the most recent time. Owen Cooper, you get into this fight, and you decide to go back down to welterweight, as you just alluded to. What kind of came about that fight, and how did that fight come to fruition?
That fight come to me, I would say, early start of the year.
Okay.
I thought, yeah, this is another fight for me to stay busy, keep active, and push me forward, in the welterweight division. So I said, yeah, let's have it. I looked at him and I said, this guy, Owen Cooper, he's beatable. He's been beaten. He's fight. His confidence may be a bit low. This is an opportunity that I can capitalize on.
Mhm.
So I took it. And I said, yeah, let's get back down to welterweight. Probably, I did say to my coaches, this is probably my last year fighting at welterweight.
Okay.
So we just got to try. We just got to try, go out there, see what we can do. And yeah, we come up short. Um, the weight was tight for me, but no excuse. I still made the weight. I still got in there, but I didn't get the result.
You talked about the weight a couple of different times, and I want to elaborate a little bit more on that because, as you said, you were up at 155, 160 for a couple of fights, and obviously it was a little bit different situation, but still, you got used to that weight for a little bit then. Coming back
Mhm.
down, that weight cut had to be difficult for yourself. The weight cutting process, did that impact the results that happened against Owen Cooper?
I believe so. I believe it did. The
Hmm.
weight cut was very hard. Um, I got to a weight and it was just hard. It started being hard to be shift, and it was like I was balancing there. It was hard to get down to them last couple pounds was just really hard, and yeah, we end up doing it at the end of the day. But I wasn't the same in there.
You talked about that in the beginning of the year. You said this was probably going to be your last year at 147. Do you believe that was your last fight? Now that you've lost, now that you have could possibly move up now, do you feel like that was your last fight? You'll be fighting at 147, and now you're going to move up to 154?
Definitely, that's my last fight at 147. I won't be going back down for anybody, you know.
Okay. Now that's obviously a huge thing because we look at your career now, 32 years old. You now move up to this next weight class in which we could probably see be a lot more comfortable in the weight. What can we expect now
Mhm.
for you going forward? Now being at 154, new weight class, not as tough a weight cut. What can we expect from Chris Congo now at 154?
I think I'll definitely be a lot more explosive.
Hmm.
I'll be a lot sharper. I'll be a lot not fitter. I'll be the engine will be there now. You
Okay.
know, I'll be able to go um and just put my punches together, man. And I'm sure that I'll be able to add a bit more power. I think in the welterweight, the last year or two, I'll say 2 years, getting down to welterweight kind of took away a bit of my power. But yeah, now I get to show and prove.
If I were to ask you, let's look at the next 12, 18 months for yourself. What are the things that you want to accomplish and get done? Or even what could we see yourself? If I were to talk to you, like I said, a year and a half from now, where do you think we could see? How many fights? What do you have accomplished? What are some of the things you see yourself accomplishing in the next 12 to 18 months now? Well, at 154.
At 154, most likely the British title, if not the British European, and yeah, just build up from there. Get a few fights under my belt, stay
Mhm.
busy, stay active, and yeah, just get the titles that need to be grabbed. Like I said, the British and European.
Overall, this will be obviously a unique jump for yourself. And like you said, you're probably going to have to build yourself up a little bit. So when can we possibly see you back in the ring? Is there already discussions on that? Or when can we see you return to the ring?
There's discussions on that of me fighting in another country.
Okay.
Can't say much of it yet. We're looking
Sure.
at August, September times, and hopefully another one and towards the end of the year, December for maybe an international title.
All right. I love that, man. Well, I got a few more things before I let you go, Chris. One of which is I want to pick your brain a little bit on the boxing scene. And somebody else just asked to comment in the comment section. When we look at the upcoming fight this upcoming weekend, Josh Taylor's fighting a fight against a former guy you obviously lost to, we talked about earlier. When you talk about this
Mhm.
fight upcoming now, who do you have winning that fight?
It's a good fight.
Hmm.
When Josh was training with Shane McGuigan and Ben Davison, I'd sparred him for probably the five
Okay.
years of his career. After the Ara Davis fight, I sparred
Hmm.
him for every single fight. So I know him very well. I've fought Echo. I know him very well.
Right.
And for me, I got Josh winning this fight just purely based on the fact that Josh likes people that come towards him.
Good
You've
point.
seen him against Barunchek. You've seen him against Ramirez. He boxes his best when people come to him. I think for a fighter like myself, good counter puncher, a fighter like Jack Catterall, good
Hmm.
counter puncher, a fighter even like Regis Prograis, he won, but it was a
Hmm.
very close fight.
Right.
Someone that knows how to counter and just pick his shots. Josh doesn't do so well against them guys.
Good
So
point.
I see him winning against Echo, but it's not gonna be easy.
I agree, man. So I also want to look at the 154 division for yourself again, real quickly. And there's obviously lots of great guys you could possibly go up against out there in the Britain, the domestic scene. Is there something you have your eyes on? Like, if you could go pick anybody, obviously after you build yourself up, let's say a year from now, is there someone that you would love to go out there and fight?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to fight probably Tim Tszyu.
All right.
He's looking good. He's done well. He lost against this guy.
Sebastian
I
Pandora
forgot his
or
name.
Bakram?
Uh, Bakram. Yeah,
Right.
Bakram's very good as well.
Yep.
So yeah, man. I just at this age and this time of my career, I want to mix it with anybody once I can build up myself up and get a few titles under my belt.
Obviously, with you being 32 years old, obviously you're up there in age a little bit. You're kind of working your way through that point. How many more years do you have in this? Do you feel like you're still fully energized? We could still see you out there for many more years. Do you feel like you're on more towards the tail end of your career? Where do you feel like, from a standpoint of how many more years you have left?
I believe I've still got a lot more years left
All
in
right.
me. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at my career, there's been a lot of inactivity that's
Over.
just
Yeah.
been purely based down to, I think once I still got a long time left,
Mhm.
the inactivity took a lot. And yeah, man, now I'm gonna push.
That is a unique thing. I think when we talk about fighters, one of the biggest things is how much damage you obviously take on in your career. And some people would say, okay, a guy at 34, 35 years old, whatever it might be, that fought, 20 times in their career would be a little bit different than a guy that's obviously fought 30 sometimes in some brutal fights. You have had the inactivity, and in a way, you could possibly say it's been a blessing in disguise at this point in your career now because obviously you haven't taken as much damage. How much benefit
Mhm.
does that in a way give you now, knowing that, okay, at the end of the day, you have only fought 20 fights in your career now? How much more kind of like you said, juice or energy does that give you, knowing that you could still have a few more good years in your career?
No, it actually it brings me on, knowing that I haven't had the hardcore brutal fights.
Yeah.
Um and just knowing that I haven't took that much damage is a blessing,
Hmm.
It's a blessing, and I can only say thanks to God for that. But there's still a lot more left to show and to do.
Love that, man. Well, I got a couple questions before I let you go, Chris. One of which is that you do go by the nickname Too Slick. I got to know the backstory
Mhm.
behind that. How did that come to be?
That come to be one of the amateur shows that I boxed on. I boxed
Okay.
against the army, and it was actually the crowd that was chanting "Too Slick,"
All
and
right.
then from then it just stuck with me.
So when the crowd started chanting that, you just knew that was the nickname you're going to go with going forward then?
Yeah, yeah. When I got home and I actually sat down, I said, "Yeah, Too Slick. That's the one."
I love it, man. Well, I got one final question for you, Chris. The question I like wrapping up every single interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. You just said you got quite a few good years in the tank left for yourself, but when that day does
Yeah.
come, you step away from boxing. What do you want your legacy to be for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
I want people to know that I was definitely one of the best to come out of the UK. That's where
Um,
my legacy lies, and that's where it will lie. And I believe that will happen.
I love the answer, Chris. Well, Chris, I appreciate you for taking time to come on in, man. I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you. Of
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
course, you're always welcome on, Chris. God bless.
Cheers.